All right, guys, so we're all agreed that we've done our main business plan and we've come to the conclusion, very logically, that proprietary trading firms are the type of institution that we want to mimic or follow because they're most closely aligned to us. So these are just the gradings that we got. 95 for the institutional firm and 0 for retail education as per the last slide. So what we're going to do next? Well, we're just quickly, before we go on to tools, which is part B of the initial table that I showed on the first slide, what would you do, guys? So let's again relate it to a real life example. So for example, you've done your research, you want to go out and become a car mechanic. You've narrowed down all the institutions or garages or whatever you want to call them that you want to go and work for. You've narrowed it down to one, a particular type. So what are you going to do? You're going to do more research and you're going to try and find out, okay, they're the best out there in the field for what I want to do. How are they doing their training? What steps does it involve? So that's what this quick slide is all about. We're just going to do our research now. Obviously, to some extent, you're going to rely on me to tell you. So I'm going to give you the answers to the questions that you would have. So first thing you're going to obviously figure out is, okay, what's the typical path in terms of salary that these people are earning at this particular institution? So I'm going to tell you that. So in year one, typical person at a proprietary trading firm is earning between nothing and I would say not more than $10,000 to $15,000 if they're lucky. Why is that? Well, the reason is, if you think about it, and this is just another reason why they're the perfect choice for us to emulate. Because if you're starting out as a home retail trader, you don't expect to earn anything from day one, right? So it's the same thing in this institution. They don't pay their traders anything. In the other institutions, investment banks, pension funds, real money, hedge funds, etc., they do pay a decent salary of 30, 40k first year. Why is that? As I said, guys, they're handling clients. We're not handling clients. We don't have other jobs, administrative tasks that justify being paid for. And professional trading firms are no different. You come in, you don't earn anything because you're not doing anything that's adding value to the firm. Year two, once you start going live and trading, you're expected, I would say between year two and year three, you're expected to earn about 100k plus. And then year 3 to 4, several 100,000. So somewhere between 3 and 500k per annum. And then year, I would say 5, 6, 7, around there, I would say the top performers would easily be earning $1 million plus. So that's the typical path. So we've done that research. That's a tick in our box for the business plan. We found out what someone following this path would typically be expected to earn. But look, what you got to do is, guys, you got to forget about this stuff. You got to forget about the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you got to focus here, right? Because my point is this: how many people come into retail education, and this is why I keep saying it's the wrong direction going this way, thinking, oh, I'm going to earn straight away, I'm going to earn within 3 months, etc., etc. It's deluded reality, guys. Even in the most successful firms in the world, traders are not earning that quickly. So that's why this is really the key, is to understand as part of your business plan that your business, for the first 6 to 12 months at least, you're not going to be expected to, I mean, if you earn something, maybe 5, 10k, great, but I'm talking in terms of earning a reasonable salary. It's not going to happen. Why is that? So that leads me on to the methodology and the training program, which is also part of our research. Now, what it might be worth doing, and this is the last time I'm going to do this, is just revisiting why this is going in the wrong direction. So let's look at the overlaps in terms of a retail education and where we want to get to. What bits of it are we going to keep? Well, if you do retail education, obviously there's pure risk taking, which is great because we want to do that. But look what's missing, guys. Huge chunk is missing. We've figured out that this is the professional route or institutional route that we want to follow. We're doing some research now. You're more than welcome to go and Google this, do your own research. I recommend it, in fact. But obviously, me having been through this route, having been fully trained up myself, and spent significant amount of time in a proprietary trading environment, and successfully, I'm obviously well placed to tell you all of this, but by all means do your own research. So this is the chunk that's missing, and that's why, big reason to avoid this. Secondly, accept that we are going to keep the pure risk-taking element of it, which you'll come to see. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Then this bit, obviously, we're going to keep because professional trading firms are looking at highly liquid markets, so Forex, which you're obviously familiar with. But again, guys, big chunk missing. Institutions, professionals, are all looking at the futures market. Why is that? Well, it gives them access to order flow, exchange traded order flow, which is why I wanted to just do this comparison because it's relevant to what we're going to go through here. So as part of our business plan, we can see, oh, we're missing this. We want that. Now, what exactly is that? Well, this was the big red herring on the last slide and why I said that you're going in the wrong direction, guys. Now, let's think of an example. This is all about starting a new career, right? So the reason why I keep linking this to like a car mechanic career or a lawyer, doctor, personal trainer, whatever it is because for some reason when it comes to trading, all logic goes out of the window. Guys, you don't need to do anything dramatic in terms of changing your approach to what you're already doing in your day-to-day life. That's why I keep relating it to these vocations that we're all familiar with. So let's say it's your first day on the job at a firm. Let's say it's Microsoft. This is a pretty good example, but it could apply anyway. It could apply to the car mechanics, the personal training role. Let's say you found your apprenticeship, and rather than doing it from home, you've actually decided, all right, I'm going to go and work at this firm. So let's say it's Microsoft, because you've decided that they give you the best chance of success in an IT career, for example. And there's a reason why I've picked this, because it's actually quite a good example. So it's your first day on the job, right? And your boss says to you, and there's another new recruit they've taken on. So let's say that your boss says to you, look, Microsoft are selling software on CDs, right? So we all know this. You buy the CD to download the software. So he says to you, look, I want you, so let's say your name's John, for argument's sake, and you've got a colleague, Mary, who's also on this apprenticeship with you. Now you're John, Mary's your colleague, your boss says to you, John, I want you as your first assignment to prove to me whether you're worthy of us keeping you on at Microsoft. I want you to give me a report in the next 2 weeks, and I want you to forecast where the price of those CDs, which I just showed you, are going to be in a year's time. So that's 1 year's time there. And he asks Mary the same thing, because obviously these prices are important to Microsoft. They're selling CDs, but they need to buy these CDs, so they're relying on the CD market price. Now, guys, it's no different to forecasting the price of an asset, right? Any asset. A CD is an asset, pound dollar is an asset, the stock market, a stock in the stock market is an asset. No difference. Now, would you go into your first day at Microsoft Having been asked that, or sorry, come back 2 weeks later to your manager and he says, all right, have you done the report? Have you forecast where CD prices are likely to be in a year's time? And would you say, let's say they started off at one dollar per CD, and say, yep, boss, I think they're going to be up 20%, 1.2, so $1.20. And he says, okay, so why do you think that is? So that's your forecast. It's gone up 20%. And he says, why do you think that is? Well, he says, look, I've looked at this RSI indicator and right now it's oversold. So the indicator's oversold and I think it's going to come back up. A. B, we're well below the 20-day moving average, so I think we're going to get back to the 20-day moving average. And C, we are diverging from where the price was last year, and my divergence indicator tells me that we're going to be at $1.20. Now I'm doing my best not to laugh because we both know that that's ridiculous. Now Mary comes back and he says, what about you, Mary? Now Mary comes back and says, boss, I think the price is going to be 10% down. So it's at $1 and in a year's time I think it's going to be at 90 cents. So $1 down. And he says, oh, why do you think that? And Mary says, boss, I sent out a survey to all the CD manufacturers out there, and the responses I got back suggested that demand was going to be down around 10% over the next year, and therefore I thought it was logical that it will be approximately 90 cents. Now guys, who do you think is going to have a career at Microsoft? It's obvious, right? A. And B, when I was doing that example with John, hopefully most of you are thinking, don't be so ridiculous, Envy. Of course I wouldn't say that to my boss at Microsoft. Well, guys, when you, like as I said, predicting this price is no different to predicting the price of an asset. By doing what John did, you're basically doing what is done in this box. It's complete nonsense, guys. You've got to understand this is complete nonsense. It has no rhyme, reason or logic, and no evidence suggests that this is being done. And that's why if you look at the list of institutions in the last slide, not a single one uses these techniques. Well, however, what they do use is what Mary's using, and that's the point of the example: exchange traded order flow. It's raw data, demand and supply. So what they're doing is the equivalent of what Mary's doing. Going out there, getting the raw data, looking at underlying demand and supply, and obviously there may be fundamental factors, which is where some fundamental analysis comes in, but obviously if you're trading on a short-term basis, even that's not necessary. What these guys are doing is they're looking at, obviously they're not sending out a survey into the market, however, it's available for them on a depth of market, on a footprint, on a volume profile, etc., etc. And that's what they'll be spending. So it leads me nicely onto this year one. What they'll be spending a good, I would say, 6 to 9 months training. So they won't actually be taking any risk. What they'll actually be doing is they'll first start out with the raw data. And by the way, guys, what's so exciting about the program at G7FX is we're going to do exactly the same thing. So this business plan, we've figured out, okay, the best institutions in the world that produce the most profitable traders in the world, this is what they do according to our business plan. We need to go and do it. That's what G7FX delivers to you, but even better, and I'll come back to that. So as I said, the first thing as you walk into a professional trading firm, they're going to teach you about raw data, raw demand and supply. So that'll be done on using order flow, volume, depth of market, and time and sales. So in the next chapter, and actually on the slide after this, we're just going to introduce some of those things to you. So raw data, then we move on to auction market theory, which is basically volume profile. Now don't worry if none of this makes any sense to you before, you've never heard of it, because we're going to cover all of this. Now what you're doing with volume profile is just looking at where the most volume has traded, and that price is something called value or accepted price, or you may have heard these terminology before. Guys, professional trading firms, this is what they're teaching their recruits in the first 9 months: how to measure fair price. Then what they do is they teach you value trading. Once you're shown how to, so raw data which feeds into profile, which then helps you figure out what the fair price is, then it's about how to trade around fair price. Are you looking for price to move back to value, move away from value, back to value, away from value, keep moving away from value, and a new value forms? These are the sort of things that are involved in value trading. At the same time, you'll be learning obviously some fundamentals, especially if you decide to become a slightly longer term trader. Fundamentals are obviously very important. Guys, have you noticed how low on the list charts are? So at least my experience was, for the first 6 months, I had to prove profitability purely on the depth of market. So the quote screen that I talked about on the very first slide, where you've got bids and offers, executions, depth, just going down. Now, look, don't worry, I'm not going to expect you to sit there staring at this thing like I had to for 6 months before charts are even introduced. The advantage, and why I say G7FX is even better than learning from a professional trading firm, is because I've obviously been through training programs at a variety of institutions, so I kind of got a good feel for how different institutions affect the market as well. But secondly, and more importantly related to this, I've obviously seen the advantages and disadvantages of looking purely at raw data. I obviously do use charts to some extent now, with the VWAP, which is another, so volume profile, I forgot about the VWAP there, volume weighted average price. I won't say much on this now because we're going to go through it in detail. But in terms of charts, I kind of got in my mind what I think is the sweet spot. So I mean, by all means, spend 6 months looking at the raw data. I personally think a couple of weeks is pretty good. 2-3 weeks is maximum needed, just so you can figure out exactly what's going on behind the charts. And then I'm happy to introduce charts very quickly, but again, we can either decide that together, or you can decide yourself when you think is optimal. But I'm happy to bring charts in much quicker. But do notice that if you were to go and work in a professional trading firm, they're not going to let you look at charts, guys, for at least 3 to 6 months. And then after 6 months, that's when you start to bring everything together, because all of these topics are very deep topics that in themselves can take a month or two for each individual topic to really start to make sense. You then bring it together around, month 4 to 6. You then put on simulation, guys, on sim, which is like demo. So that's why I said on the initial slide, going straight into execution is completely crazy, because not only do you have to do the part A and part B research of tools and obviously what apprenticeship training you want best, you then need to start learning a lot of theory before you even start the sim trading. So that typically happens in an institution around month 4 to 6. Obviously G7FX will try and make that happen for you much quicker than that. Happy for you to start to do that much quicker, because the difference between G7FX and you going to a professional firm, and why we're much better in my opinion, obviously it's very subjective, it is just my opinion, but the difference is that when you're in a professional trading firm, don't forget, guys, there's so many other traders who want to make it, so there's only so much attention each person can be given. B, the guys there are incredibly busy doing their own trading, and I guess a lot of them, in particular in the teaching department, may not have, obviously I've got 16 years of trading experience, so I feel like there's a much better chance for me to bring that experience to the table, and reflect that in the program, which you may not get reflected in kind of in the professional. I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the professional firm, they have much more of a standardized program that everyone follows, And when you finish it at month 6, it's kind of like good luck, sink or swim. They put you on the sim. The ones that pass, brilliant. The ones that don't get dumped, and they move on and they bring the next batch in. You see, it's a very generic process. Whereas what I'm trying to do with G7FX is, yes, there will be all these standardized tools, but I'm really going to try and get it, especially in the advanced stage, to a place where we can at least help you to start to develop some edge, which you will have to then go and obviously put in many hours of screen time to develop it to suit your own personality. But I want to take that extra step and really try and bring my trading experience to the program and get you developing edge. So just to summarize, so 4 to 6 months, and then you're on the simulation environment will typically be for another 3 to 6 months. And that's why I say that will take you to year 1, guys, before you've even probably started going live in a professional environment. And that's why I've put here year 1, virtually earning nothing. Year 2, you start to go live, and then you might earn 30-40k real money in your first year, which is year 2. Year 3, you could be on 100,000, which is the figure I discussed earlier, and then obviously that can quickly ramp up very quickly. So, you know, the important point, guys, is get yourself to that stage of year 1 without rushing and jumping, which typically you do when you're going through a standard retail education. Do it the proper way, guys, the same you would in you know, like the environment I suggested here in an apprenticeship. It takes time to learn. Be patient. We'll help you the most we can. Hope that was useful. So that part of the business plan is over. We know exactly what we need to do. I'm not going to cover this again. Next slide is going to be the tools. But now we know exactly what we need to be doing for the rest of this program right towards the end. So it's kind of giving you an order of exactly what we are going to do over the course of the next several modules right towards the end. It's my job to try and get you to the stage of here, bringing it all together, and then very much where I can, obviously I'll support you throughout your trading process, but our job is to put you in the best position that when you do start trading, your chances of success are maximized. Hope that helps. See you on the next slide, guys.